This is Brannon Howse Live. Whether the issue is law, science, economics, history, family, social issues, education, religion, government, or national security, Brannon brings the issues of the day into clear focus through the lens of a Judeo-Christian worldview. And now, here is your host, Brannon Howse.
And welcome to the broadcast. Glad you are with us on this Thursday night, October 23rd, 2025. October 23rd, 2025. We are going to talk about many things tonight, including I recorded an interview this afternoon with Aharon Levarko and Dr. Rob Lindsted for a few minutes because of the statement by President Trump that I will not allow the annexation of the West Bank, Judea and Samaria. We also had that same comment today by Vice President J.D. Vance. Why is this such a troubling statement to Dr. Rob Lindsted, to Aharon Levarko? Aharon has had a little change of mind here, as you're going to see, because he was trying to be very positive and hopeful. But today, he is very troubled by this, as well as our many Israelis. But as I'm going to talk about tonight, where are all the anti-Semites saying, oops, we apologize? Apparently, it's not Benjamin Netanyahu running the world or America. Because if that's the case, then why is Donald Trump the one deciding what's going to be happening in Israel? So again, the whole narrative you've been listening to is wrong. I watched a film last night, a movie, a documentary, Red Alert, about October 7th. Melissa and I watched it late into the night. All of you should watch it. I'm going to show the trailer tonight. We're going to talk about the film. I'm going to ask Annie on. She's the one that told me about it and said I had to see it. I didn't want to read subtitles, but I decided I was going to watch it. And pretty quick, I didn't care. I was reading the subtitles because the film was so well done. But it's very, very emotional to watch, and you should watch it. And I learned several things. And tonight I'm going to share with you what I learned watching the film that can be applied to me, my family, and I think to you as well for what's coming. You're also going to see a very shocking video clip tonight where the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, is asked, what is it with all of these National Guard troops, this special response National Guard group that you're building to control crowds or be ready to respond to civil unrest in all 50 states by April of 2026. What is that about? Hegseth was asked that today by a reporter. Someone that I know, actually, has been a guest on here, Jordan. And it's a very interesting response, but you have to ask yourself, why is there a memo going around that there is a National Guard response force that's going to be able to be activated in all 50 states by April of 2026. What is up with that? What's going on? Then I want to talk with Dr. Basima about EMF. 60 Minutes did a piece years ago with a medical doctor about EMF. Now this is such an old clip I'm going to play for you tonight. It was well before we all had wireless routers and 5G. And this medical doctor was warning what his studies were showing about EMF, electromagnetic force, which we're all bombarded with today. I want to play that clip for you. And I have another one, too, by Del Bigtree at the High Wire. And let's talk a little bit about EMF and what it's doing to us. New information. I know we've visited about this before, but new information, very important information. So, and then Anni Cyrus is going to join us to talk about not only the Red Alert film that I finally watched last night with Melissa, but also the State Department is apparently removing a bunch of information about human rights violations from a certain group of countries. Can you perhaps guess which countries are all of a sudden having their government website is taking down some of their abuses? What countries in the world do you think are all of a sudden having the bad news taken down regarding them? Can you guess which countries and why? Yeah, we have an Islamic problem. I'll just give you that little hint. So we got a lot to get to tonight. I hope you'll tweet, text, email, Facebook, Getter, True Social, whatever it is you do. Let your family and friends know that we are here and that we are on and that we're going to cover things that very few people will cover or even talk about. We're going to do it here. All right. But before we do, remember, we are brought to you by you. Go to worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Go there and take a look at all the great products. You know, I take the Bella Grace each and every day. I take the not only the Bella Grace, but Melissa uses the skincare. She loves their skincare. She loves their Bella Melts. That's brand new. Those are selling like crazy with the GLP-1 to help curb, that's an all-natural product, help curb your appetite and burn more calories. All of this is at melissahousebg.com, melissahousebg.com. You know I love the glutathione in my Numi at worldview at swishforlife.com. By the way, we'll talk about this tonight when it comes to EMF, because I think Dr. Basima will agree, as I've learned, I think she's the one that told me, glutathione is one of the best ways to detox your system from all of the EMF that's getting down and attacking your cells. And that's what I want to explain to you tonight in one of the videos. EMF is going through your body and it's actually targeting also your cells. It's creating a problem at the cellular level and the toxins. And glutathione is one of the few products that actually can address the damage being done in your body from EMF. And I didn't know that when we started promoting Switch for Life. I just knew it was a great source for detoxing your cells. Now we just keep finding out more and more about what's so great about this all-natural occurring ingredient in our bodies that starts to decrease around the age of 20. And of course, an added benefit is that studies show it may remove glutathione, mercury from your brain, helping prevent Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's, which I don't want that. Do you? I can't even imagine. So swishforlife.com. All right. Then, of course, you know, I do the Gatatana every day. I drink a glass full of that every day at melissahousegpa.com, melissahousegpa.com. Dolly gets the half a scoop on her food every day. One scoop is the equivalent of 90 billion plant cells. One scoop, the equivalent of 90 billion plant cells. And again, we talk about the guy that developed it. He got a terminal diagnosis. He starts eating the phytoplankton, and his deal comes back benign. Lived another 10 years. All right. That's how Global Plankton Alliance was built. melissahousegpa.com, melissahousegpa.com. Now, if you can't remember all those websites, just go to worldviewtube.com/sponsors. They're all there. worldviewtube.com/sponsors. And you'll find them all. I would also highly recommend, particularly after also watching last night, Red Alert, that you all have your own emergency medical kit from worldviewhealthcare.com. Get your emergency medical kit right away. I have plenty of these, and we travel with them. We took a couple of these with us when we went to Northern Illinois 2 weeks ago. You don't want to be caught without pharmaceuticals if you need them. And we have studied recently about how much of the basic chemicals that are used to create things like the antibiotic amoxicillin come from China. So we get into it with China, we have a disruption, and it would be horrible to watch someone in your family die because they couldn't get their hand on an antibiotic. So I have plenty of these. I'm stocked up because I'm not fooling around. And you shouldn't either. You need to be ready for whatever's coming and prepare, pray, and then have some peace of mind that you've done pretty much all you can do. Not only that, you can check out their essential plan, their enhanced plan, their ultimate plan at worldviewhealthcare.com. The enhanced plan gets you free prescriptions, pharmacy coaching. The ultimate plan gets you not only free prescriptions and pharmacy coaching, but gets you free supplements. Doesn't take long before you've used up that $99 and now you're saving money. So you can check all that out at worldviewhealthcare.com, worldviewhealthcare.com. And then, of course, check out all the other great sponsors there, Worldview Talk and so many of the other great sponsors there, because this is what helps us stay on the air. That and your contributions to our foundation. These sponsors here that pay us when you make a purchase, and then our foundation. worldviewfoundation.com. Please do not forget about us in your end of the year giving. You'll also find our mailing address there if you prefer to support us through the mail. Worldviewfoundation.com. Folks, if you value what we do, if you appreciate what we do, please understand we have to have your support. We have to. It's so expensive to push out free television. All the bills. I won't even go through them. I've done it before. I'm just telling you, we have to bring in thousands and thousands of dollars a month, about 40 grand a month to keep this network going. So thank you for all your support through these sponsors and through our foundation, which is one of our sponsors. All right, let's get going. Hello, I'm Brannon Howse. I want to thank you for all your support at wvwfoundation.com that helps make possible pushing out 24/7 content for free. Without your support, we'd have to put it all behind a paywall. But thanks to you and your support through our foundation, we're able to push it out for free as a broadcast service and broadcast ministry of WVW Foundation. Please consider going there and setting up an automatic monthly contribution, or go there and make an occasional contribution. If you prefer to support us through the mail, you'll find our mailing address there at wvwfoundation.com. You can also call and make your contribution over the phone by calling 901-825-0652. That's 901-825-0652. Again, all these details are available at wvwfoundation.com. Thank you for your support as we try to help people around the world understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview. All right, we're joined now by Dr. Rob Lindsted and Aharon Levarko, our reporter on the ground in Israel. We're pre-taping this on Thursday afternoon to run tonight here on Brannon Howse Live because of the schedules and the time change. Guys, I want you both to respond. I know we dealt with it for an hour today. We're going to try to do it here in just a matter of a very quick few minutes because Dr. Lindsted has to teach a class. But here's what President Trump said in the last few hours at the Oval Office desk.
Did you promise leaders this week that you would not allow Israel to annex the West Bank? And is that something that you
I will not allow Israel to annex the West Bank. No, I will not allow it. It's not going to happen.
Did you speak with Netanyahu about this directly?
Yeah, but I'm not going to allow it. Whether I spoke to him or not, I did. But I'm not allowing Israel to annex the West Bank. There's been enough. It's time to stop now, okay?
Okay, time to stop now. Really? What's time to stop is putting Israel and Israelis at risk. The West Bank, which you guys took over in 1967 and got a hold of that during a war, your people there in Judea and Samaria, derogatorily called the West Bank, that's loaded up with terrorists. They just dumped a bunch of these guys that they swapped for hostages and the deceased hostages. They just released a bunch of them in Judea and Samaria. They have tunnels all over Judea and Samaria. I've been warning last year about the fact that I'm concerned about Judea and Samaria being the next place of an October 7th. Now that I've watched Red Alert last night about October 7th, I'm waking up today to this. You guys are going to have another October 7th. Does President Trump know that there are terrorist tunnels around West Bank and how many terrorists are in the West Bank? Does he know this, Aharon?
He's got to know. He has briefings. Our security cooperates with the American security. Of course, he's got to know. Donald Trump has clearly crossed a line. He came in to help bring peace, but within the Gaza Strip. The Gaza Strip is the Gaza Strip. Even though it's part of the Promised Land, we're talking about the Gaza Strip. He is now crossing a red line, talking and telling us what we can and what we cannot do with our own land. That is extremely out of line and dangerous. And I hope Bibi Netanyahu, whether he does it privately or publicly, he needs to step up. He needs to, and I hope Smotrich and Ben-Gvir pressure him to do something about this. And I'm pretty angry about this, Brannon. I know you've been recently with Trump, and I've been looking at you with kind of, questioning eyes. But now I understand. And I'm very upset at this.
Wait a minute. Explain that to the audience. What you mean by that?
Well, this whole peace plan, when it was announced here in Israel, in our Knesset, on the day that he helps bring our captives home, on a day of celebration, and at that same time, he talks about bringing new peace here in the Middle East with all these nations that have signed up, and even nations like Iraq and Turkey and Qatar and even Hamas agreeing to hand over our captives. It's like there was a great good feel factor, and maybe he did it at a weak moment of us where we were so tired of hanging on and waiting for these hostages to come home. They come home, we're rejoicing, we're jubilant, and bang. Now,
so what you're saying is, last week on radio, you and I were kind of having a friendly debate? Because we're friends. But we were having a friendly debate, and I was taking more of the position that you're now taking, and you were being more hopeful. But what you're saying is you now are seeing what I was seeing last week.
Yeah, absolutely, Brannon.
Okay. Now, Dr. Lindsted, I know you have to teach a class real quick. I told Aaron last week on the air, I said, your country's being groomed. Now get ready to be raped. And that was about to happen because the Trump administration and these people that are working with him, were going to put Turkish soldiers in Gaza. Erdogan had a coup, he said, and he put it down and turned his country from a secular government to an Islamic government, killed a bunch of his own people and military, and is talking constantly trash about Israel. And our guys with the Witkoff Kushner team, we're going to put, according to numerous reports, Turkish soldiers in Gaza. Now, that's what I'm talking about when I said last week, you're being groomed, now get ready to be raped. Israel's put their foot down about that. But if he didn't, they were going to find themselves possibly literally being raped by Turkish soldiers. Dr. Lindsted?
Well, it's so disappointing to hear Trump say, I will not allow that to happen. Because who made him the president, the prime minister, or anything over the land of Israel? It's not his land. And so Joel 3 gives a warning to those that take the land that belongs to God. It belongs to God. God gave it to Israel, but not to Trump. And so he's violating scripture when he does this. Next, in the articles that we looked at during the radio program, remember, one of the headlines even caught, here's Erdogan, president of Turkey. He went from outcast, now he's the main star of the show. And we showed pictures of him sitting around the table with Trump, and he always wants to be next to Trump. He's Trump's golden boy right now. So we're going to build him a nuclear reactor. I don't trust Turkey with a nuclear reactor. We thought about selling him F-35s. I don't trust him with that. We've compromised every situation, even though less than 2 weeks ago, Erdogan and Egypt boasted that they were doing joint military maneuvers to defeat Israel. Okay, so if we say to Putin, you can't go in and say, I'm going to take this land over. You can do this, you can do that. That's why we're mad at Putin. He did that in Ukraine. How is Trump different than Putin? For him to come and say, I can tell you can't take that land, he doesn't live there. And so really it's a black eye on America. But I also want to bring out an important text. And I started reading this 10 days ago in Daniel chapter 8. And just listen to a few of the things. It says this, that when they come there, this king goes way beyond the historical kings. He's picturing the Antichrist. Again, I'm not trying to say Trump is the Antichrist. I think the Antichrist will take someone even more clever than Donald Trump. I think Trump is going to be a schoolboy. He's going to be taken to school by Satan and the Antichrist. But it says, his power will be mighty, but not by his own power. In other words, he doesn't come in on his own. He had 35 countries, all enemies of Israel, that backed him up and made it look like it was a worldwide deal. No, it was a stacked deck. He shall destroy wonderfully, completely, in other words, shall prosper and practice and shall destroy the mighty and the holy people. That's Israel. He destroys them using others, using his slick tongue, and then through his policies also, he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand. Deceit is a word that was used in some translation. Cause deceit to prosper. He did. He deceived people. He didn't tell the truth. He shall magnify himself in his heart. Have you ever heard anyone boast more about what all he's done? And by peace shall destroy many, that's the Jews. He shall also stand up against the Prince of Peace, that's Jesus, and he shall be broken without hands. In other words, God's going to have a way to humble him. And unfortunately, the country he represents, I think we will be humbled because we're on the wrong side of this. We're on the wrong side based on God's word.
And isn't it something, Dr. Lindsted, before I let you go, because I know you're 3 minutes late, your kids are going to give you a tardy for being late to the class. We're on the precipice of a financial collapse. Our dollar is going down. People are dumping the dollar because they're tired of being bullied with sanctions in the American dollar. They don't trust the American dollar. They know we're bankrupt. And then you add this to it. I mean, it's like, okay, is it in Joel 2 where it talks about, I'm angry at you for dividing my land? Is that in Joel 2?
Yes. Joel 3.
Joel 3. Verse 2, right? Joel 3, verse 2?
Yes.
See, my dyslexia flipped it around there. It's almost like, okay, we're on this precipice, and now we do this, and it's like God just goes, flicks his finger. All right, guys. I've warned you, I've warned you, I've warned you, I've warned you. You're on the precipice. And yet I got to live in this country. So do my kids and grandkids, right? But that doesn't change reality. There's more than just my kids and grandkids involved here, or your kids and grandkids. But us older folks are trying to tell people why this is so much a problem. And I guess one of the things that gets their attention is when you start talking about their kids and grandkids, right? So if it's not for your own sake, for your kids or your grandkids, you need to get on the right side of this. And I'm not talking about that we have to always agree with what the government of Israel does. But when you start dividing their land, okay, and we're the ones doing it, that is inviting God's wrath. Closing comment from you, Dr. Lindsted, we'll let you go to your class.
Absolutely. Let's take the Temple Mount. Okay, through this whole thing, we know that that's an important piece of property. Right now, the Jews are willing to stand back, except for Ben-Vir, and say, okay, we'll let the Jordanians control it. They police it. But really, they say everyone can come and pray there, but not the Jews. I can come there and I can pray there as a U.S. citizen, but I can't bring a Bible. Now, how long do we put up with that? And so they continue to push us. They continue to push us. My fear is this, that when we go against God's word, sooner or later, God says, I've got to honor my word. And I said that if you do this, you're going to be punished. You're going to be destroyed. My wrath's going to come against you. The United States, by God's grace, exist. And we need to be on God's side. We can't ask God to be on our side. We need to be on God's side. And God's side is to say the land of Israel belongs to the Jewish people. God gave it to them. And the Arab people have been given another land, the land of Edom. And their land is huge. You know what? Israel's little speck is so small compared to all the land that they have. But why? It's like a spoiled child. They want the one toy that someone else is using. So now we have someone who came in, I think, by deceit and said, okay, I can solve this worldwide problem in the Middle East, perpetual problem for years. And so he comes in and he makes a deal, but the 21 points have been violated. And they're violated, but he still wants Israel to keep their portion of it. And then he pushes them further and says, you can't even have the land that rightfully belongs to you. Wow. You know what? He's trying to act in the authority of God. And that's why I fear, because God will punish him. And when he punishes him, we may also be persecuted. And when I say, Lord, you're right. It's like Daniel. Daniel prayed in Daniel 9. He confessed the sins of his people to God, and he owned those sins as his own. That's what I will have to do, because I need to speak up. I need to say, you know what? Trump has stepped beyond the will of God. And so I'm going to side with God's will. I'm going to side with God's word. It's God who owns the earth. He created it. He made it. He sent Christ to redeem it. Who are we to say, no, we'll decide who these boundaries belong to?
Absolutely. BibleTipNow.org, BibleTipNow.org. Dr. Lindsted, apologize to your students for me.
Okay, I will. But they'll be happy I'm late.
They will. All right. Yeah. And Aaron, a few more minutes with you. Look at this headline, Aaron. Germany signs $2 billion deal for Israeli spiked missiles despite embargo. Israel defense contractor Rafael, I guess you say it, Rafael, Advanced Defense Systems will supply the German army with Spike anti-tank missiles in a deal worth approximately $2 billion, one of the largest agreements signed by Israel defense industries in Europe in recent years. It's particularly notable given the arms embargo imposed on Israel this year by German Chancellor Friedrich Merz following Israel's cabinet's controversial decision to extend the war in Gaza. It's kind of like Israel. Of course, you guys need the money, particularly if you're going to get cut off by America. But it's almost like Israel's like, let's give the weapons to, let's sell weapons to Russia, or excuse me, to Germany, who may be going to war soon through NATO with Russia. This is all getting very interesting, and you have to wonder if this isn't being used in some way to apply pressure on Trump, right? Who's trying to get a peace deal and get things worked out over there. All right, you want to put pressure on us, Trump? We'll put some pressure on you. We're going to start selling weapons to NATO and Germany and maybe encourage them to go to war. I mean, I'm not saying that's what's happening, but I have to wonder, is there a chess move being made here or not?
I'm sure there is, Brannon. I'm totally sure that nations are, they're looking out after their own interests, but there's some chess moves there for sure. Look, it's good for Israel. In fact, through this war, many nations have made incredible deals, including Egypt, $534 billion gas agreement Egypt signed about a month ago with us. So when they've seen how we've handled ourselves with our equipment during this war, wow, many contracts have been made. So it's been very good economically, and it's helped get us out of a hole because this war has cost us unbelievable amount of money.
Well, wait till you start selling your new laser dome to them all.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Yes.
Where are we at with the Ben Gurion port? Has there been any more talk about the Ben Gurion port that's going to cut through Gaza?
No, but this is what I believe is going to be revealed. I believe it's part of Trump's bigger plan. Gaza is just a little plan. His plan is bigger. It's the whole of the Middle East. It's the Asia. It's that peace corridor. And a big part of that is going to be the Abraham Peace Accords. Now, while that's happening, there's another coalition on the other side growing as well. And that's the Russia, Iran, and Turkey coalition. Russia, Iran, and China. And we got to keep our eyes on those three nations. Their alliance is growing. And in fact, I just heard today that China are keeping Iran alive, keeping them afloat. They are purchasing 90% of the oil that Iran is selling, they're selling to China. If China pulls the plug, Iran, I think, are finished financially. So China are in there, and they know what they're doing. China knows exactly what they're doing. So all of these coalitions, you use the term chess. That's exactly what we're seeing. But I'm still in shock, Brannon, by this news with Donald Trump. That it's really very, very alarming. And I hope that people are stirred to pray. You talked about you can't, or something you said about you got something about the reality, to change the reality. Well, prayer can change this reality. I wonder how Mike Huckabee is going to deal with this. I wonder if he's going to speak words to Trump. I wonder if he's going to step down because of this, because there's no one more Zionistic and understands the scriptures about the land of Israel more than Mike Huckabee. And he knows the situation very, very well. And he's many times, I've watched him in interviews. He attends churches here in Israel on Sundays. I've met people who have been at those church services. One guy actually tried to call me and connect me because he knows that I give reports with you here, Brandon. He tried to connect me, but he couldn't get through.
Well, I can give you Mike's cell phone number. I text back and forth with Mike a few times in the last few months since he became ambassador. I can send you his phone number. I don't know if he'll respond.
Right. Well, maybe we can arrange some kind of interview with him, but I would really be interested to know what he has got to say about this. And my guess is that what he's got to say, it's not for public hearing. Because I don't know him personally, but I think I know him well enough to know he will not be happy with this move. And he will see, Brandon, the spiritual ramifications on America by taking this stand. What concerns me also, Brandon, is the way that Trump said it. Did you see the volition there?
Oh, yeah.
He was adamant, like I said before. If he had said, well, and he played the politician, well, let's not talk about that now. That's not on the table right now. But he didn't say that. He said, I will not allow it to happen. I just wonder, where is he coming from? Has he let the praise, all of the good feedback, has he let that get to his head? And has he puffed himself up as a result of all those accolades? I'm very concerned for him. We need to pray for Donald Trump.
Yeah, we certainly do need to pray for Donald Trump because it impacts us as a country. And sadly, I'm being told by some of our broadcast partners, we're one of the only networks in America that is covering this like we are. We're like a dog with a bone, and we're not letting it go. And we're one of the only networks that's doing this. And also, may I say, we're one of the only networks doing this when the trend is going against us. As far as the number of people, thanks to people like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson and others that are turning the conservative movement against Israel. In fact, there was Tucker Carlson last night at Turning Point USA getting a hero's welcome. Watch and listen to this. Well, of course, the young people are giving him a standing ovation and praising him because the surveys are showing that America's young people are into big-time replacement theology. Survey, younger evangelicals reject Israel's biblical role, replacement theology making a comeback. And that's, of course, what's being promoted by, what I personally think are slobs like the guy out of Idaho, Doug Wilson, and many others. They're promoting this replacement, what's his name, John Piper, and these other weirdos. They're promoting this. So our so-called churches in America are full of this, right? I mean, when you figure what the churches are doing, what the so-called pastors are doing, and what the politicians are doing, we're in big trouble just from that standpoint of how the pastors, so-called, put quotes around that, and the politicians are treating Israel. Now, I'm not talking about the government of Israel. Again, I'm going to clarify. But the anti-Semitism that's raging and the justification of twisting scripture about Israel, and we're going to do some analysis, biblical hermeneutics tomorrow with Dr. Andy Woods on this, because of these so-called pastors that are running around twisting the scriptures to justify turning people against the Jewish people. Not talking about the Israeli government, the Jewish people, and that God has no plan for them. Yet we know from Revelation chapter 21 that I dealt with last week, the New Jerusalem's coming down out of heaven, and on the walls are on the tower gates. The tower gates are 12 tower gates around the New Jerusalem. It comes down out of heaven and sits on the new earth, and it has the name of the 12 tribes. And on the foundation are the names of the 12 apostles who were Jewish, but who also were distinctive to the foundation of the church in the book of Acts, saying that God doesn't have a program for the Jews who come to Yeshua, that he doesn't have a program for the church. He puts it in stone and in a foundation for all eternity in the New Jerusalem. This is all so disturbing to me because I realize what it means as we are shrinking in America, but this network is not going to back down. I don't care how unpopular it becomes.
Hey, Brannon, the 144,000 Jews mentioned in the book of Revelation, some people say that's just a spiritual number and that 12 is a symbol of leadership, of government. Well, what's interesting is the verses directly after the 12,000 from each tribe. If you look at the next verse and 2, it mentions, and people from other nations and peoples. So there's a distinction between 144,000 Jews and people from all other nations and tribes and peoples. So you can't spiritualize that God has a future plan, not only for the lost tribes, they're going to be restored. But the big question for me, when I deal with replacement theology, I ask this question: where is the Lord Yeshua, Jesus? Where is he returning? The book of Zechariah 14 says his feet will stand.
On the Mount of Olives.
Not in Tennessee or Soho or Tokyo, but on the Mount of Olives. There's a reason why God has chosen that place. God still has a place in his economy for not only the land, but the people. The land and the people go together. So people, God, may you open people's eyes.
Amen to that. Amen to that. Lighttothenationsministry.com, lighttothenationsministry.com, brought to you by our foundation. We send him regular love gifts. So if you support us, we can help support him and keep these reports coming. Worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. Aaron, thank you so much for all you do.
Thank you, Brannon. God bless.
You too. We'll be right back, folks, after this short break.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work. Try to see a doctor this week, or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Order online and save $45. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. Visit urgentcarekit.com/well, promo code WELL. That's urgentcarekit.com/well, promo code WELL.
Joining me now is going to be Anni Cyrus, but I first want you to watch this.
West Bank, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. We'll do it. Yeah.
The West Bank vote yesterday that took place while you were in the country.
Oh, yeah, that was weird. That was weird. I was sort of confused by that. Now, I actually asked somebody about it, and they told me that it was a symbolic vote, some symbolic vote to recognize, or a symbolic vote to annex the West Bank. I mean, what I would say to that is when I asked about it, somebody told me that it was a political stunt, that it had no practical significance. It was purely symbolic. I mean, look, if it was a political stunt, it was a very stupid political stunt, and I personally take some insult to it. The West Bank is not going to be annexed by Israel. The policy of the Trump administration is that the West Bank will not be annexed by Israel. That will continue to be our policy. And if people want to take symbolic votes, they can do that. But we certainly weren't happy about it. Thank you.
All right. So we also played that on radio today, as well as the clip we played tonight of President Trump at the Oval Office desk saying the same thing. We heard from Aharon Levarko, our reporter on the ground in Israel, and Dr. Rob Lindsted on this. Let's get a response from Anni Cyrus on this, and then another breaking news story tonight, which is this one right here. State Department just made human rights optional. Okay, we'll get into that in just a minute. Annie, we saw a very exercised Aharon Levarko, particularly on radio and TV today, because as you know, I was trying to tell him last week, and it was kind of the tensest back and forth debate he and I have ever had, I think. And I was trying to say, your country's getting set up. You know, I know you want to be positive with all the hostages being released and all, but you guys are being set up. When you're dragging troops from Turkey into the Gaza, when Erdogan wants to go to war with your country, you're being set up. Now, thankfully, I guess the Trump people are backing away from that because Israel's saying that's just not going to happen. But what on earth do you think these people are thinking to even recommend that Turkish troops go in there to start with?
Well,
if your audience would go back to somewhere late June, early July, I also joined you and Aaron on your radio when I had a little bit of a heated moment with him where I said, Aaron, when will it stop? When will you stop listening to Trump making decisions for your country? And I think today is the day. J.D. Vance stands there. First of all, how dare, he's not even the president. He's the vice president. How dare he would call the decision of the Knesset a symbolic. They're not Americans. The only politicians who do symbolic moves are the American politicians with no backbones. He calls it a symbolic move, then he calls it a stupid political statement, and then he says it's just not going to happen. This is an important sentence, Brannon. It's not going to happen because Trump administration policy is it's not going to happen. Are we expanding America and we just didn't know? Because as far as I know, Trump administration policies belong to Trump administration policies in America. Nobody has obligation to listen to Trump policies.
But I thought the Jews ran the world and that Benjamin Netanyahu was the one that had a leash on Trump and held the end of the leash, and Trump was his lapdog. But, you know, as I said on the radio today, where are all the anti-Semites coming out tonight apologizing? Oh, we're sorry we were running around saying Netanyahu runs the world, Netanyahu and the Jews run everything, that America's run by Jews. Well, that just got proven wrong by both the president and the vice president. So at least I thank them for that.
Exactly. And let's not mention, I will hold this against Bibi for coming out and backing J.D. Vance. I don't know if you've heard the press release he did or the talking to cameras he did, calling Knesset out for doing this, blaming the opposition that they did it on purpose while J.D. Vance was traveling to Israel to create division. That was not a good move from Bibi either. Even if I know he wants this to happen. But to keep face, he comes out and call out his own Knesset because, as you heard, J.D. Vance apparently took some, what did he say, defense?
He took some offense. He took some offense to it, right?
Offense. So that right there, who has the leash around whose neck? When Bibi comes out blaming his own Knesset for trying to save its own people, yeah, no, Trump is the one who's controlling Bibi.
Well, and Bibi is about to lose his government. If some of the conservatives on the right, far right, as they call them over there, decide to pull out of the coalition, I think his government will collapse.
Exactly.
So I don't. How is that symbolic? So when you say, "Oh, I think that's a symbolic vote," I'm thinking, wait a minute. I don't think JD understands how, shall we say, radical? Because that's what we always are told about the folks over there. Well, those Orthodox, those right wingers, those more religious Jews, they're radical. Okay, you can call them what you want, describe them how you want, but when they vote, I don't think that's symbolic, and no one's going to say it's symbolic when the government collapses. We're going to say, well, wait a minute, what should we have done to keep that from happening? Because now Benjamin Netanyahu's gone. Who's going to replace him, right?
And let me ask you this. Who's going to benefit if Netanyahu's government collapses? Who's going to benefit from that? The man who's trying so desperately to get a deal. That's who's going to, I'm just going to say it. If Bibi's government collapse, Trump is the only one who's going to benefit from it. Whomever sits in Bibi's seat will agree to whatever Trump says, because when you watch the bully kick somebody out of the game, you're going to listen to the bully so you don't get kicked out of the game. People don't want to admit to it, but as Trump said himself, what did Trump say exactly? It's not going to happen. It is not going to happen because I gave my word to the Arab nations that are giving us good support. Isn't that what he said? That's what he said to Time Magazine. Within very sentence where he said he is now making decision on release of Bugatti, or however you pronounce it here.
Yeah?
Go ahead.
Are you familiar with this gentleman? I've been following him on social media lately. Dumasani, Washington. He is a Black Zionist, founder, CEO of Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel, author of Zionism and the Black Church. And I don't know a lot about him, but I find his social media posts lately very interesting. So Trump supporters who keep blaming Biden for funding the Taliban can now blame Trump for funding the Taliban, even though the House passed a bill to defund the Taliban, which distributes money to Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Shabab, Boko Haram, and many other terrorist organizations. The U.S. is a vassal state of the Islamic Caliphate. Now, this is getting interesting because, you know, there's one group of people say the Jews run America. And then there's me, and I think you, who are saying, wait a minute. And it seems to me it's the Islamic world that's running America. Who's pumping billions of dollars in here? Who has business deals with all the Islamists? I mean, the money that AIPAC has is nothing compared to what the Islamic world has. But isn't it interesting that you have people now in the MAGA world, in America First world, in conservative circles, Republican circles, however you want to describe them, the Christian community, that are either lined up on the side of the Jews run the world, the Zionists are the problem, or us, that is, no, what the Muslims and the Marxists are doing to the Jews, they're going to do to us. They're going to go after the Saturday people, then they're going to go after the Sunday people, that's us. And we had better understand that all of this is a distraction to blame everything on the Jews because of it's a spiritual battle and its desire to wipe out the Jewish people so Bible prophecy can't be fulfilled. But it's also really, really, really helping China, Iran, the red-green axis, because so many people are concentrating on the Jews, which is giving cover for what is the real takeover, which is the Islamist. And we're about to have an Islamist, maybe for the mayor of Minneapolis, but surely I think that guy's going to win in New York. But he says the U.S. they're both going to win. The U.S. is a vassal state of the Islamic Caliphate. But isn't it interesting, Annie, the groups that are either everything's the problem with the Jews, and then us saying, wait a minute, the problem is the Islamists, which are the ones that are helping to fund the propaganda that the problem is all the Jews.
Uh-huh. Isn't that biblical?
Yeah.
Isn't that what we were told it's going to happen?
Yes.
There is no middle ground anymore. It's those of us who see the truth, who seek the truth, who report the truth. And then there are those who will say whatever it takes to bash and get rid of Jews. The whole world is at that point. It's not just U.S. Europe is the same. Canada is the same. Middle East is the same. But the question is, how can one, as you said, how can anyone at this point claim that? Even Candace Owen jumped off of the Jews killed Charlie Kirk train. She is now claiming Trump killed Charlie Kirk.
I saw that.
It's so irrational. When you listen to Trump talk about the Arab nations, the passion. When you talk about J.D. Vance trying to save face, saying, yeah, I was confused, and then I wasn't confused, I was offended, and somebody told me it's symbolic. You got Marco Rubio now going to Israel trying to salvage what's left of this never-existing peace. You got Kushner, and how long has it been that Witkoff and Kushner's been there? Like 10 days, 12 days now? Achieving nothing? It's pretty clear who Trump administration works for. We sat here the first few months saying, who's running the show? Who's running the show? Well, there you have it. I see on social media of my own supporters who attacked me a few weeks ago over my reporting, now saying I'm starting to think Qatar bought Trump. I'm like, welcome to the club. Mm-hmm. Took you a minute, but I'm glad you joined us.
Yeah. Well,
is way too clear who's running the world. And with the breaking news that you mentioned at the early on, that is the icing on the cake. The cover-up officially started.
I want to also bring up this tweet by our mutual friend Daniel Greenfield. The Palestinian nation building project is the fool's errand of the Carter administration, bequeathed down to 7 administrations, which came to believe that the only hope for the future rests in achieving the happiness of our enemies. Wise leaders build up our own nation. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Even though I know I've been in America for about just 24 years, which is more than half of my life, but I don't remember the last leader who did that in my lifetime in America. Every leader's been so busy either destroying America or busy funding the enemy of America, which is the same thing at the end of the day. And again, it is so ironic when your entire slogan was "Make America Great Again," America first. The rest of them didn't claim that. They didn't.
And Annie, last night after I got off the air, Melissa and I watched, what was it, 4 parts of Red Alert?
Yes.
4 parts, okay. I didn't want to read subtitles, but you kept telling me I have to see this. And so I started it and I couldn't finish it. And I'm like, I finally didn't bother me reading the subtitles. And I stopped it about a minute, maybe 2-3 minutes into it. I stopped it and said, Melissa, you got to come in here and watch this. So she sat with me and we watched the whole thing. And the last hour, I looked at my watch and said, man, it's getting late. She's like, I know, but we have to finish. We have to finish. I'm like, yeah, we do. It was that. We did it all in one sitting. And I think everyone should watch it. I can't believe Paramount put it out. Red Alert. I want to show you the trailer because this is what I saw last night as I described on radio today. And then I woke up to this controversy again of President Trump and J.D. Vance saying, no, we're not going to let Israel annex the West Bank, the derogatory term for Judea and Samaria. I'm thinking, that's none of your business. And number 2, here on this broadcast, particularly radio, I was saying to Aaron months and months ago, last year, I'm concerned that Judea and Samaria are going to become a new Gaza with a terrorist attack. You have so many jihadis living in the West Bank and building terror tunnels in the West Bank, right?
Oh, and you know where Barghouti is from? That Trump is now considering releasing him?
The West Bank.
Yes.
And you know where some of the terrorists went to? Some of the terrorists went that they just released and traded with. They got dumped off in the West Bank.
Yes.
And I'm thinking, after watching Red Alert last night, I'm like, why on earth are they not cleaning all of those Islamists out of the West Bank before they have another October 7th, right? Watch
because
this.
They won the next October 7th.
Well, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? Watch this.
ראית שם פעם?
בעזה? כשהייתי ילד היינו ניסים לשם עזה.
ולא פחדת?
היום אני לא מפחד.
People, see! עד שאני חולה עליך.
شو هاد سلاح؟ سلاح؟
זה בקיבוץ?
افتحوا الشباك.
לאן אתה הולך?
לראות אם צריך עזרה. לך כפר, אלוהים ישמור אותך.
את נורמלית לאן שלחת אותו? חיים שלי ירו בי.
אני בא אלייך, לוחמים!
צועים אליי! בן שלי, ראית את הבן שלי?
אני אהיה פה מחוץ לדלת.
הם יחזרו.
אבו שאתה שם?
פליז, not the wallet. לא יכול להיות שם לבד.
صبي وحياتك خلاص وحياتك.
אני מחתנת את הבת שלי עוד שבועיים. אתה חתני, אתה בא לי בדרך.
אנחנו קרובים חיים שלי. Come with us.
You took already one child.
בוא נלך הביתה.
am stunned after watching that last night that Paramount, I don't know a lot about Paramount, but any of these big companies like that, I just, in this age of political correctness and all, I mean, all I can say is thank you, Paramount. That was so well done, professionally produced. The acting was amazing. Sometimes you see these films that have great messages, but the acting is so poor. The script is poor. This was first class production here. And what I loved about it at the end was, as you know, Annie, because you're the one who told me to watch it, was at the end, they showed us the actor and actresses with the people they were portraying of those that were still alive. A couple of them didn't make it. But to see some of those folks sitting in a director's chair with their headphones on next to the camera, watching this individual portraying them, watching them stand next to each other, laughing, embracing each other, that at the end you see that and what was also shocking was how much the people they chose to play them looked like them. Melissa's like, they look like them. That little girl that you just saw in the trailer with her mother. I mean, what a cute little girl. And I said to my wife, isn't she adorable? She's just a cute little girl. And she did a fabulous job as an actress, little girl. And at the end, they showed the little girl with the real little girl. And it was shocking how much they looked like
sisters.
They did. They looked like sisters. And I watched that film. I said this to the radio audience today at 1. As I was watching that film and with the truth of the story and being a father and a grandfather, I couldn't help but be moved by that little girl and the little boy. Because as a parent, as a grandparent, you're thinking, about your kids, your grandkids, and children. And I thought to myself several times watching this, how can people be so hateful toward the Jewish people? How can you be hatred toward anyone, right? How can people be racist toward a little black child, right? Or a little Asian child? But how can you be, as anti-Semitism is growing, how can you be so hateful toward a group of people when you look at these sweet little children that were just living their life with their parents and their moms and dads get murdered, and some of them were murdered and their siblings murdered. And I'm thinking, where is the thinking that you're going to blame all of the problems of the world on the Jews when we know that they're such a small percentage of the world's population, number one. And it's not rational, but it's not even reality to think you're going to smear a whole group of people. And when you look at these children, you're thinking, do these people have no soul? Do they have no soul? Why are you setting out to ridicule and dehumanize these little children? Annie?
It's interesting you say that because one of the scenes, I also did it at one time. I actually called you immediately when I finished watching it on a Friday morning. I spent the 4 hours to watch it. And if you remember, I said, I don't easily cry, but I was bawling the whole time. But one of the moments, though I'm not a parent, I don't have parents, but one of the moments that got me thinking very deeply is, at what age do these parents have to teach their kids what's coming? Because you notice the kids are trained.
Yes.
They know what's happening.
Yep.
The boy is, I think, 8 or 9 or 10. The sister is 7 or 8. They are already trained. They know what to do. They know where the charger is. They know where the 8 kid is. It's like, when I always have spoken on as an ex-Muslim saying, they took away my childhood. They take away our innocence in childhood. And when I was watching this, I realized they take away the Jewish kids' childhood too, because they have to learn about this evil so early on to one day survive one way or another, or one day grow up to be IDF soldiers. All these years, my whole mindset was the Muslim kids, especially Muslim girls, are the one being robbed of their childhood and innocence, until that moment in that bedroom when I saw the kids' role of prepping And that's when it hit me. I was like, wow, it's not just the kids. It's not just the Muslim kids they're robbing. It's the Jewish kids. I never thought of it until I saw that scene, Brannon. I never thought how early on they have to teach their kids. If they kill me, you do this. That's where you run. That's what you do. You walk with your 3 children, one of them baby in your arm. They watch their father bleeding on the floor, and they can't flinch because you taught them not to show fear. How can we defend anyone who's doing? Everybody screams in America of, we got to cherish our kids, and children trafficking and sex trafficking should stop, yada, yada. What about their kids? What about these kids who, and again, we're just watching Red Alert that is about October 7th, but this is their daily life. Me and you, we know that. Aaron can testify.
And these were families that were living on the border of Gaza. Some of them were living and letting the Palestinians come through the fence and work on their kibbutz, work in their gardens. They were into the whole interfaith dialogue, coexist. They were some of them, I would say, some of the hippies, if you will. These kids killed at that musical. Some of them would have been more liberal. Some of the Burning Man type, like a Burning Man, kind of the hippies. And look what they did to them. In other words, some of these people would have been the whole social justice warriors. And look what they did to the social justice warriors. They gang raped them, set them on fire alive.
Well,
and you think you can make peace with these people? You think, the Muslim family that you end up seeing at the end, that Muslim man who they killed his wife.
And their friend who was also going to work. They accused him of working for IDF and just shot him dead right there. That's what I mean by stop the radical versus moderate thing. There's just one Islam, there's one jihadist, and they don't care who you are. Listen, on September 11th, did they check in with all the passengers to ask if they're Muslim or not? No, they didn't. When I did the 20th year memorial of September 11th, some of the videos we made in memory of those killed, 3 of them were Muslims. They were just as guilty as the rest of them, though, for hanging out with the kafir, for being moderate, for not being jihadist. They're just as guilty. Again, Quran 5:51. Do not take Jews and Christians as your allies, and if you do so, you are against Allah.
You're a hypocrite.
Short version.
You're a hypocrite.
Yes. Well, hypocrites are described in Islam as against Allah. That's hypocrisy. You're either with Allah, die in name and cause of Allah, otherwise you're a hypocrite, which is, so it doesn't matter. Stop the moderate, radical, all of it. There's just one version. And I actually am still searching to try to find some sort of contact for the mother. You see her getting wounded in the trailer in her car. I want to write her, the real person, because how many years she has faced this to be such a strong leader in middle of all that chaos, while her own kids are in line of fire.
She was a kindergarten kindergarten teacher.
But the moment that was needed to be a strong leader, she became that strong leader her pajamas.
Yeah, and one wonders if she was in the IDF at one point in her life, right? Because
I looked up, she wasn't.
She wasn't.
She had no training. Her husband was, and her son was starting to join, but she wasn't herself. Her husband was, who was killed, by the way. The husband was killed by Muslim jihadists. But you look at these, I remember once on your show, I asked people to watch it because, it was when you had me and Dave Gobbets on. I said, if you want to learn how to set up your mind for when we get hit, watch this. That's where you see the mindset of surviving.
And it also taught me, do not put off what you need to do to prepare. Because if the storyline is true, the handle of the door for the safe room for the family was broken. And as a result, he could not pull the door shut and lock it from the inside. He had to go on the outside and shut it and lock it. But that meant he was on the outside and the family is on the inside. I don't want to give too much away because I want people to go watch it. But what it told me was, do not delay in making your preparations, because one simple thing like fixing a lock on a door, securing the door, having enough ammunition, whatever it is, having a spot by which you can defend the high ground of your home. Look, I don't think I've ever said this bluntly, but if this trend continues in our country, I have briefed my family and briefed my guys in the control room that if we have that perfect day where they do multiple terrorist attacks in one day, I fully expect one day, since they've already targeted my conference with a gunman from Saudi Arabia, targeted my 2018 conference by Black Lives Matter, Muslim Brotherhood, Antifa types on social media, and had our contracts canceled in 4 out of 5 cities. I anticipate that one day they will show up, several of them at one time, to try to kill us at our studio or take over our studio and to broadcast us on the air with them with guns on us and maybe even killing us on camera, because that's the way they create terror. And if you don't think we haven't prepared as much as we can, as accordingly, we have. But it told me last night watching that, when the dad had delayed fixing something, I thought that should be a lesson to every American. Do not put off fixing even what you think is the smallest thing, or, oh, I won't really need that, right? It seemed as though from the film, they were not expecting the worst. They were preparing for bombs coming in. They were prepared for broken glass and the need for metal doors and metal shades on their windows, etc. But it does not appear as though they were preparing for armed conflict on the ground. And yet that's what Gordon Chang and many others have been warning, whether it's the Marxist side or the Islamic side. Many of you have been hearing us, from Annie to myself to Gordon Chang to Dave Gobbets to others, say they want conflict on the ground. They want war on the ground in America. Well, how many of our listening audience tonight are prepared for physical battle? And yet here they were in Israel. This is what they grew up in. And I gathered from the way the whole thing went down, they were shocked that these Islamists were going house to house, that they were on their grounds. It did not appear as though they had prepared for that part. Would you agree?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But the mindset was trained. That's why they were able to quickly switch to battlefield.
Mm-hmm.
Every single one of them. And that is when I say, I'm going to say this, 99.9% of Americans today, of any generation, they consider the basic inconvenient a trauma.
Mm-hmm.
They won't survive. They won't. They will sit down, put their hands on their head, and let them be taken or killed. You need to train as much as physically you need to be fit. Yes, if you come to my house, Brannon, I have practiced every corner of every room, because I don't know which room I'm going to be in when jihadists break into my house. Every corner of my house, I have practiced defending myself, not hiding, not keeping my mouth shut until they leave. No, to defend myself in my house. But on top of that, even when I have a crooked neck, 12 degrees to the left of my body, I sit here and do my job. I do my writing. Why? Because when I get through that pain, when they are putting me through that pain, my brain can still process rational decisions instead of desperate decisions. We need to change this spoiled mindset in America, where a simple 92 degrees heat on the highway and a flat tire equals trauma they need 3 days to recover from. Toughen up. That's why they survived. Though they weren't prepared, they relied on safety of that border. When they got hit, they switched their mindset into battlefield. They fought.
The other thing
we need to do the same thing here.
100% agree. And by the way, the mindset, we saw that during the Korean War with our own military soldiers. Their minds were not prepared for what they were going to face. And they came home from the Korean War and told the government, when the government was doing a study of why so many of them died or became collaborators with the communists in the POW camps of the Korean War, Well, if we'd only known. And they found that 4 out of 10 men would pull the sheets up over their head and will themselves to die. And they would die. The government didn't have a name for it, but the men did. They called it give-up-itis. Yeah. Because their mind had not been prepared. And it was out of that the government created the military code of conduct, right? So this is your code. This is what's expected of you. They train their mind. This is exactly what you're talking about. Preparing the American people for war. And I'm telling you right now, everything that I see, and I hate to say it, I don't want to sit here and talk negative about President Trump and his administration. I would love to sit here and tell you all the great successes and be worn out from telling you all the great successes that this guy's having. But look, the globalists are somebody.
You're not in business of making things up. Therefore, you can't say all the great achievements.
No. And he's distracted. He's I don't know if they've compromised him somewhere with money. But I know the deals that we've been told about and that you can read about. But this is not the same guy from the first administration. But I would love to sit here and say all these great things. But if he continues down this road, the Islamists are going to take over this country. Okay. And they are being empowered and they're being defended and they're being called good guys, strong guys, good-looking guys. And the American people are being lulled into a false sense of security. They're being lulled into a lie about Islam, and they're going to be completely unprepared for the battle that these guys are preparing. But I also noticed that during this film, they could not rely on the first responders. Now, our own government has put out a report by the Department of National Intelligence, the DNI, that first responders, this is what they're doing. They're apparently stealing or developing the uniforms of police, of fire, of EMTs, and wearing their uniforms.
Why would they even bother to steal them? There are stores you can walk in. They sell props for movies.
That's right. Absolutely.
And 9 out of 10 Americans cannot tell the difference between a fake police badge versus real. I promise you they don't know how to tell the difference.
No.
They don't know how many digit numbers are FBI IDs versus police ID versus fire department. These are the things when I say mentally preparing, this is what it is. Become super paranoid, learn everything. My whole life in last 12 years, if I get a knock at my door, which I get plenty, and they identify as police, I ask for badge number. Not the badge. I ask for badge number first. I don't open the door. I don't care if they're wearing the uniform. Even if they park a police car in front of my house, I don't open the door.
Well, isn't that the lady that was assassinated in Minnesota, the state legislator, the former, was she the current or former Speaker of the House? The guy shows up posing as a cop, right?
Exactly. We need to step up. The comfort, the good days of great America and its safety is over, my fellow Americans. It's up to you. You're more than welcome to deny it. You can stay in your bubble until somebody bursts for you when it's too late. But to back up what Brannon is saying, you need to realize that President Trump is defending Arab nations when it comes to our strongest ally in Middle East.
And they wanted to put Turkey's soldiers in the Gaza, for Pete's sake.
After we already started selling Turkey F-35s, after Turkey already said they're going to start arming Syria.
And we're going to help them build a nuclear reactor, right? A nuclear facility.
Exactly.
Why?
Exactly.
Why? I mean, this is blowing my mind. If someone had told me this, last summer, a year ago, before the election, I'm like, no. Did you hear what he said the first term? Did you hear, but that, as I go back to that point about the other thing I learned, don't put things off that need to be fixed or prepared for it, number one. Number two, Annie said, prepare your mind. Number three, I learned from watching Red Alert last night, you're on your own. Sarah Adams and myself and Annie and many of us, even before we knew who Sarah was and started reading some of her stuff on the air, we were saying your town police officers are not going to be able to handle it. They're going to be overwhelmed. Some of them are not going to go on the job. They're going to stay at home with their families. And I don't blame them for what they get paid. You're on your own. You better have your emergency kits. You better have weapons. You better be, because in Israel, the guys kept calling, the IDF Special Forces guys kept calling for the ambulances. They murdered the ambulance drivers and EMT. There were no ambulances for a long time because they had taken out the ambulances. They had taken out the EMT, and they kept calling and calling and calling for backup. Where's the backup? They were on their own and for hours.
I believe almost 7 hours, 56 minutes or so, close to 8 hours, until the first group of IDF was able to show up. Military.
That was at the festival.
Yes, at the festival.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So I learned a lot last night, and I had reinforced a lot last night.
Yes, and when Brannon says have your emergency kit and your weapon and ammo, all of that, having it is different than knowing how to use it.
Right.
Here's what I do once a week when I get a chance, but I make sure it's once a week. I open my first aid drawer. Mine isn't a kit, it's a giant drawer. And I re-inventorize. Did I use anything this week I need to refill? Okay, I have this. It's same thing with your weapons. Even if you didn't go shooting, clean it. Clean it. I can't tell you how many people I have come across. They have the weapon, but the last time they even checked on it was 6 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
What's going to happen when it jams? You're going to throw it at people? Unless you're like me, you're very good at aiming and throwing. Otherwise, your gun is useless. Clean your gun. Clean your ammo drawer. Re-inventorize your kit. Learn. Read every label on your emergency kit. Because it tells you how to use it.
Have blood stop. We sell some of it at our store, worldviewstore.com. Have the powder to stop bleeding. Have the ability to compress any wounds. Because anybody that's EMT will tell you the way to drastically increase survivability is to stop the bleeding.
Yes.
And we saw that in this film. People that have been horrifically shot, in some cases multiple times, they had at least gotten the bleeding under control with a tourniquet or something else, enough to then get them help to the hospital. But again, you're not going to be able to rely on the ambulances in most cases. They're going to be swamped. You're going to have to get to a hospital on your own. And you may not have that. You may need to work with doctors in your community. I have a friend of mine, he was on here the other day. He's an internal medicine doctor. I have an ER doctor that lives at the mouth of my cove. So, you know, I know who the doctors are, right, in my area. And I'm telling you, you got to know who these people are, and you've got to be prepared. Now, with that, I want to switch real quick to something that was asked, I think this was today, right, guys? By Jordan. You're going to notice, maybe you'll recognize the voice. This is Jordan from the Gateway Pundit, who we've interviewed so many times. I guess he's now at the White House. But listen to this question. This is really interesting. Here we go.
Question for Secretary Hegseth. Sir, a memo circulating on social media details the establishment of a National Guard response force that's going to be trained in crowd control and civil unrest and deployed in all 50 states by April of 2026. Can you verify the authenticity of that memo, and do you have any more information on the operations?
I'm not going to answer particulars on something that may be in the planning process, but we definitely do have multiple layers of National Guard response forces, whether it's in each state, whether it's regionally, whether it's Title 10 active duty, whether it's Washington, D.C. We've got a lot of different ways that constitutionally and legally we can employ Title 10 and Title 32 forces, and we will do so when necessary.
Mm. And of course, we've been talking about that. I think some of it's based out of Alabama. What do you think they're preparing for, if they really are preparing for trained crowd control and civil unrest to be deployed in all 50 states by April of 2026?
That is very interesting. I'm almost caught off guard with that question and that answer. The only thing I can think of is they're expecting to see something go wrong with all the deals they're making. They know China, Russia, and Iran have plenty of soldiers in America who will fit in as Americans. They're not going to be foreign in our eyes. So are they worried there will be a attack that is going to be disguised as civil unrest? I don't know. That could be, but I don't know. This administration scares me, Brannon.
Well, listen to this by President Trump. This is very interesting too. Here we go.
Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. When you were running for re-election in 2024, you released a video statement where you made this exact promise to show no mercy on the cartels and employ every military asset necessary to combat them. In that same video, you also said that you plan to expose all the bribes and corruptions with politicians and the cartels.
We're doing that.
Has your
we're
task
trying to
force
do
been
that.
looking into that in American politicians?
Yeah, where the money's coming from. Because you see it. Like even that garbage deal they had this weekend, which was embarrassing to them, and the crowds were much more, the crowds were not big. Those crowds were not big at all. But when you look at signs, and they're all made beautifully, the yellow signs, I saw the yellows, the blues, but they're all made professionally in a printing shop, looks like on Madison Avenue someplace. Some guy is paying for all that stuff. And we don't mind protest. Protest is a good thing. I protest. I'm always protesting, right? But when you see some of these people are going crazy. They're going crazy because they're getting paid. Because there's no reason for them to be going crazy. But you watch some of them, and they're professional agitators, and we are finding out who's paying them. Yeah, we have a lot of information about who they are. You're going to be very surprised when you find out.
Now, I'm going to praise President Trump, if that's all right. I'm glad they're going to get to the bottom of that and like to see them do something about it. And if they've broken the law, then, the consequences are meted out. But we've had White House hearings with the president on Antifa. They're talking now about basically the red side, the Marxist side, the Antifa side. But why are we not exploring the green side? The money coming into the U.S. by Qatar. Oh, wait a minute, because we have some problems there. We can't really go after Qatar. Why are we not talking about Saudi Arabia and all the mosques they fund in America? Oh, wait a minute, we can't. We have relationships with Saudi Arabia. I mean, when you go on and on, you find out, well, why don't we designate Muslim Brotherhood a terrorist organization, right? Why don't we go after CARE? You see what I'm saying, Annie? I appreciate what he's saying there and the desire to get to the bottom of the subversive groups that want to carry out a real insurrection in the country. But notice it's always on the side of the right. We don't hear them saying we're going to get to the bottom of all this Islamic money that's coming into the country. Not to mention all these mosques that are here that are teaching and training these people for revolution.
Well, number one, I will genuinely disagree. Can he start being a president? They have professionally printed banners. Mr. President, it's 2025. When I had my rally in Omaha, Nebraska in 2022, we had very nicely printed banners, and I didn't have a sponsor because they are not that expensive anymore. Just saying.
You can just go to Office Depot or wherever and get them printed.
Right? And here's the thing. Why is he dodging the question, by the way? You see, that's exactly what he just did. And he got your attention, not mine. The question wasn't about the Rally of No King funding. The question was corruption and funding of politicians, not the No King rally. He answered a very different question that he had in his mind. And I will praise him the moment I see it happen. I'm sorry. Trump talking means nothing to me anymore. I believe him when I see resolution, bottom line.
So you want to see action, not talk.
He's been doing plenty talking, and he has helped none of his talks. How many days? It's been 12 days. He's going to finish Hamas if Hamas doesn't come to the table. And I want to explain something to your audience, though they are very familiar with me in my mindset, but 12 days for Hamas is a long time. Most of allies of Hamas are within hours away from Hamas to fund, get weapons to them, send soldiers to back them up, reroute them, get them out of the zone, bring them back. 12 days is a very long time to keep. Listen, in 12 days, Israel almost finished the mullahs. Now, you tell me what Hamas could have done in 12 days. So when I say 12 days, I know in an American mindset, it's only 12 days. 12 days is a long time to keep buying time for Hamas. The same thing with, where are the arrests? They keep talking about indictments, Brannon, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
Who's been arrested? Who's been arrested? Nobody. Where are the deportations? Where are the deportations of IRGC-tied family members? Where are they? So, yes, I will gladly praise him when his talk turns into a walk. Until then, I'll take everything he says as far as positive with a grain of salt.
Foreign royal family now owns more of London than King Charles, and the numbers are alarming. Reportedly, that's from Reuters, but or at least the picture is. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's a true statement, but it wouldn't shock me if it is a true statement. Annie, before we go to our last story.
I would not be shocked either. I wouldn't. Now, it doesn't say which royal family. It says foreign, but the picture looked like a Qatari emir.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I can definitely look into it for you if you want me to. For the next time I join you, I'll look into some numbers and the statements and see how much they own. But I do know a lot of multi-millionaires of regime of Iran members own a lot in London.
Well,
I know one of them.
The Financial Express has the article too.
Yeah.
September 9th, 2025.
Yeah.
Qatar.
Look at that, Qatar.
Qatar. Yeah.
I knew it. That guy was a Qatari emir. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And that's happened. The things they're buying up in America is overwhelming.
Of course it is.
All right, let's go to
look at the bright side. J.D. Vance is trying to take every land back from China. That's how they keep themselves happy.
It's a distraction. It's distraction. We keep talking about good things, but I don't know that we're talking about the equally or maybe even more dominantly destructive Islam.
Well, here's the thing, Brannon. One of the things I always say is that, God forbid, if I'm diagnosed with cancer 2 days after I caught a cold, when I get over my cold, I'm not going to celebrate much because I still have the cancer to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're facing. We have cancer, but then people are celebrating, the fever dropped. I think the flu is almost over. What about the cancer?
How about this? The State Department just made human rights optional. This is a new piece by you at liveuptofreedom.substack.com. Tell me about this, please, in closing.
Sure. Okay. So we have a law in America. I think correct pronunciation is Leahy law.
Yeah, it is.
Where it makes the United States of America obligated to not be involved with any kind of support or funding of armed forces, foreign armed forces who have any involvement with abuse of human rights. For example, we're not allowed to train, fund, send money, or sell even weapons to Taliban, right? Or Hamas, or Houthis, or Pakistan, or Yemen, or Lebanon. Originally in 1997, this law started being enforced, where diplomats and NGOs and whistleblowers from back doors of diplomacy would send reports like, hey, this group you're dealing with, you're selling arms to, they're committing human rights abuse. Finally, in 2020, a website opened up within the State Department website where even civilians now could report, any kind of abuse from any armed forces funded by U.S. Today, the State Department shut down that website. They shut it down. Meaning, though they claim that they're still playing by the law, by the rules, they just shut it down, meaning nobody can report what, let's say, the latest weapon sent to. By the way, we support 152 countries. Okay, United States of America supports 152 countries militarily, either funding, training, or selling weapons to, or selling technology or weaponries to. That's 152 countries, Brannon. All of those 152 countries now are set free to break any human rights, to abuse any human rights, to kill, rape, torture, kidnap, whatever. And there will be no way of tracking them publicly anymore to hold our country, our government accountable and track our tax dollar any longer. And they have not given any reason, by the way. I personally have also submitted a request of reasoning because they cannot claim saving money for the country. It cost us nothing. Nothing. Because they're claiming that the team of investigators are still at hire. So they cannot say we fired the investigators, so we don't have to pay them. If the team of investigators are still there, the team that are receiving now, by the way, we're supposed to go backward in time and find ways to write letters, put it in the mail, and send it to them for investigation. So there is no reason given, but I'll tell you the reason. The recent pressures where you on your show say, why are you still sending money to Taliban? I say, why are we still giving money to Syria? Why are we still giving money to PLO? There's a short list of those who benefit from this. And the list I put on my on my Substack is exactly the new Arab allies of Trump administration. Every single one of them supposedly under investigation for human rights abuse. Suddenly we get rid of the information. If there is no report, there is no crime, we're good.
It's all there. liveuptofreedom.substack.com, liveuptofreedom.substack.com. And again, if you're looking for some great Christmas gifts, you can go to lutfstudio.com. LUF, let me type it in here. LU stands for Live Up to Freedom.
LUTF.
Yep, lutfstudio.com. Right, Annie?
Correct, lutfstudio.com.
And there it is. There you go. Oops, sorry, Logan. There it is. All of our gifts are right there for you. All right. Great Christmas gifts available. lutfstudio.com. They're all one of a kind. So if you see something you like, you should buy it because they're one of a kind. They're hard to remake just like what you see. So there you go. lutfstudio.com and liveuptofreedom.substack.com. As always, thank you for your investigative journalism, Annie.
My pleasure. Thank you, Brannon, for letting me report on them.
Yeah,
nobody else would.
Yeah. Well, that's what separates us from everybody else, I guess. And folks, I think you should watch Red Alert. I think you should watch that. Try to do it in one setting if you can. One setting, like Melissa and I did late last night. You need to watch it. All right, we'll be right back.
Hello, I'm Brannon Howse. Melissa and I have been taking Bella Grace, this powerful elixir, since last fall, 2023. The results have been amazing. My hands would crack and bleed, deep cuts and cracks every winter for years. No matter what we did, we couldn't get them to stop cracking and bleeding. This year, I took Bella Grace, no cracking, no bleeding. My acid reflux, gone. Haven't had to take a Pepsid. My hair growth, the last 2 times I had my hair cut, the lady had to use thinning shears on my hair. That's amazing. We've also received incredible feedback from you, our listening audience, and the impact it's had for you. This is loaded with astaxanthin. That's a powerful antioxidant. Collagen, but top grade collagen. Studies show 95% of it is being absorbed in the body because of the way they develop it. Then we have something called cat's claw. That's an anti-inflammatory from a vine in Peru. It's the bark, and it's an anti-inflammatory. There are about 80 clinical trials on Bella Grace. Please get a subscription now and save. MelissaHousebg.com.
Joining me now is Dr. Basima. I saw a clip from 60 Minutes. You know, 60 Minutes used to be a really good TV show back in the day. Back in the 70s and 80s, 60 Minutes was a really interesting show to watch. Even in the 90s, they did some amazing exposés. Remember when they exposed the swine flu shot back in the 70s, mid-70s, 76, 77? They exposed that for what it was. And people that are injured from it, 60 Minutes did that. It used to be a great news magazine show. Well, you go back to their old clips, you find some pretty interesting stuff. And I sent this one over to Dr. Basima. I said, hey, let's play this one this week and talk about it. Watch and listen to this, my friends. Here we go.
There's a possibility that electric current generated in a fashion such as this could possibly cause heart disease and/or stroke?
Yes.
You have to know that that's a mind-blowing thought for a lot of people, including me.
I'm aware of that.
Dr. Robert Becker is Chief of Orthopedic Surgery and a medical investigator for the Veterans Administration in Syracuse, New York. For 20 years, he and his staff have been experimenting on the effects, if any, of low-level radiation on living things. He is one of a small but growing group of scientists around the world who are turning up information making them believe that low-level electrical fields do affect us. For instance, using very low-voltage currents, he has made broken bones that wouldn't heal by themselves grow together again. And like most scientific discoveries, it's a double-edged sword. If those carefully controlled low-level currents can heal bones, well, it makes people like Becker wonder about uncontrolled electrical fields from household appliances, power lines, and seafarer.
I was a member of the first ad hoc committee to evaluate the biological studies that were performed for Project Sanguine. And I most certainly sat there and listened to several studies that had very definite effects, yes. Animals exposed grow at a slower rate than control animals. A number of projects have shown this to be true. The second area in which definite effects do appear is that exposure to this type of field seems to produce stress.
Is it true that the Navy repressed that report for better than 2 years?
The Navy did not disseminate the report widely.
This is the report he's talking about. It was done at the request of the Navy by a group of top scientists. They reviewed experiments performed on possible effects of ELF radiation on living things and raised some red flags. That was in 1973. The report finally got out a year ago.
Now, in looking at some of the early experiments, there were effects noted. There were differences of opinion among the scientific people as to whether those effects were significant. There were also differences of opinion as to whether they were deleterious. It's our position now, and I fully support that position, that we have not seen any significant deleterious effects that can be attributed to a seafarer system.
Human volunteers were exposed to the same sort of magnetic field that the sanguine antenna would emit. And there was a very definite indication that following such exposure for a 24-hour period of time, that these people experienced considerable elevations in their serum triglycerides.
To a physician, elevated serum triglycerides are a danger signal. It could indicate stress, heart attack, or possible stroke.
Fascinating. Now, notice they didn't talk about 5G because that wasn't around. They weren't talking about wireless internet that floods all of our homes. I mean, I wonder if this guy, Dr. Robert Becker, is even around anymore. But can you imagine what they would have to say about it now, right?
Oh. We do use radio.
There we go.
Can you hear me?
Gotcha.
Okay, yep. Awesome. I just want to clarify, we do use radio frequency and in a regular controlled pattern for healing of certain things. However, when we have EMF exposure, it is erratic and uncontrolled, and that is what causes tissue damage. We know that. We have a ton of studies that suggest this, but I just want to explain some very basic things first.
Okay, before you do, by the way, I looked him up, Dr. Robert Becker, he died in 2008 at the age of 84, so he's not around anymore.
Yeah, wow. I bet he was around, though, when cell phones still started coming out, when they started really becoming more and more common. And I bet that really worried him a lot. You know, first of all, the governance over EMF exposure and whether or not it's safe for our human bodies, and also, for that matter, for all living things, whether it's animals outside, insects, plants, you know, even animals inside your house that are being exposed to EMF on a regular basis. The for this is the FCC, which is the Federal Communications Commission, which even Harvard had an article out that stated that they are a captured agency by so many people. That Harvard Ethics Committee actually had a paper out that actually said this. And what they identify is this. Their recommendations are from 1996. They have not updated their recommendations. That's a huge red flag because the technology has changed tremendously since 1996. The other thing they do is they categorize EMF into ionizing and non-ionizing exposure. Ionizing are the EMF that has a lot more energy and can actually heat tissue up. An example of this is X-rays. So we're really careful around the EMF exposure around X-rays, except for the person getting them, which they're getting radiation exposure. Now, the other type of EMF is called non-ionizing EMF, which in theory does not cause direct tissue damage because it cannot heat it up. Most of the FCC recommendations are based, there's so many flaws, I'm just going to name a couple. One, they're based on specific absorption rate, or SAR, of the heat component, not the EMF component, but the heat component of whatever technology you're using. And the studies are based on a 220-pound man they call Sam. And so, the last time I looked, Brannon, a 2-year-old is not 220 pounds. And a 2-year-old nowadays is holding a cell phone. There's a reason why when you sign your contract with your cell phone, it actually advises you not to hold it next to your body, close to your body. There's an actual place in your cell phone that actually tells you this, because I think they know more than what they're letting on. But you know what? We're smart. And so we know what's really going on. I'd love to share some studies with you, but that's just the foundation. Now, the pathophysiology, I'm going to make this really simple and really short. The pathophysiology of how EMF can destroy cellular tissue is through its indirect exposure to opening up something called calcium-gated channels inside of a cell. So calcium floods into a cell. When you have calcium flooding into a cell, so now you have more calcium than you should inside of the cell. So, the body's very finessed in terms of how much calcium, how much potassium, how much sodium is either in or out of the cell. And it does this with a very specific work and gradient in order for certain electrical charges and events to happen. Okay. When we disrupt this delicate system, of course, we're going to have a problem. And when we disrupt the calcium-gated channels and they open up and allow calcium to flood in, we are going to have a significant increase in intracellular reactive oxygen species, which is what we see is we see an increase in peroxynitrate. We see a significant increase in free radicals, mitochondrial damage, DNA damage, increase in certain cancers. There's a reason why we're seeing more and more brain tumors and cancers in this country right now. And EMF exposure is definitely one of the leading causes, in my opinion, based on so much data. This is not based on my opinion. I actually started looking into this when I started having more and more patients coming in complaining of these weird neurological symptoms. And so we know EMF affects the nervous system.
What kind of symptoms were they having?
Yeah, they were having, and I'm just gonna again, this is all science. These are all science journals that I went to, not just my opinion. I actually tried to disprove what I ended up proving in my own research to myself. And what they were having is, among more commonly reported changes, sleep disturbances, insomnia, headaches, depression, fatigue, tiredness, concentration, attention issues, anxiety, even skin changes, tinnitus, ringing in the ears. That was another common one. And of course, when we're talking about nervous system impacts, we're also talking about whether or not we will see a dramatic increase in autism cases when we have the nervous system of a baby that's being developed in your womb exposed to chronic EMF exposure. I actually did a talk at the autism conference on how to protect your baby, your unborn baby, from EMF exposure. There are major universities, like, for example, at Yale, that actually has the Baby Project, specifically designed to teaching and educating parents and parents-to-be on how to decrease EMF exposure. These things are around for a reason, because we know the truth. And the truth is that EMF is not for free. EMF is having a biological impact on our bodies. One of the biggest areas that's being studied, and actually this actually has a human study with it, is that of infertility. And specifically what we found is men's fertility clinics were increasing along with increasing EMF exposure. And what happens is that there's actual evidence that when men carry their cell phones in their pockets, that they will have a significant reduction in sperm count and quality of sperm, and decrease in mitochondria inside of sperm. If you don't have mitochondria, for those people who don't know, mitochondria is what makes energy in your cell. If you don't have energy in the cell, your cell is going to wither up and die. And so what we're seeing is a significant decrease in sperm count. And what they're theorizing is generationally, we're going to see more and more and more infertility if we are not careful.
I want to play another video for you about EMF. I think our audience will find interesting as well. Let me play this here for you guys. Here we go. Listen to this. This is from Dale Bigtree, who was just a guest here last week. Here we go.
Years I practiced pediatric neurology in Mexico City. All my patients, they were telling me, my kid gets worse every time they play video games. I started digging in the literature. It turns out it was an electric activity coming from the console and being absorbed by the human brain of my patients. In 1957, the US government brought Dr. Schwann from Europe in order to understand why soldiers were getting sick when they were exposed to this new radar to detect airplanes. And he described most of the things that are now the basics for EMFs. The density that we're exposed today is higher than 5 years ago, way higher than 20 years ago. So when we're inside of a room with electromagnetic fields, printers, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, all sorts of antennas, a human will absorb in an extremely high ratio. Biochemical and electrical go together. One electric field is always, by law, going to interact with another electric field. Imagine that it's a microscopic bullet and it goes through things, breaking them. It deteriorates the inside of the cell, and then it goes all the way to the main structure of the organ. That is why we have an increase in immunological problems. EMFs break DNA, destroy proteins. People don't realize that we're inviting the enemy inside of a house. We're getting sicker and sicker.
You agree with that?
I absolutely do. In fact, when you look at the origin of how a microwave was found, microwaves, they emit a lot of EMF as well. And if you have a EMF monitor, you can actually put a microwave on and walk by it while it's on, and it'll really light up. But radar systems rely on microwave frequency electromagnetic fields. And during the war, there was somebody, Percy Spencer, I think, who had a chocolate bar in his pocket, and every time he would be around the radar, his chocolate bar would melt.
Really?
Like, tell me it's doing nothing. Like, tell me all this radiation is doing nothing. When you have another study here that this is what one thing that's really interesting to me. The International Agency for Research on Cancer, the IARC, reviewed published literature and categorized EMF as a possible group 2B human carcinogen. And this was in 2011. Okay. Now, things are grouped in group A, 2A, 2B, or basically not a carcinogen. When we are possibly a carcinogen, shouldn't we be like, really, why are we not doing more? Why are we not doing more to protect ourselves? And that's honestly, that's where Tina has all the, my sister Tina has all these kids now, that all these grandkids now. And she's like, you can't be on the cell phone all the time. She knows. And so this is why she created Escape Zone. That's actually the source of her motivation to create it. And so Escape Zone has these amazing caps. I put mine on all the time. It's lined with Faraday. I just put mine on when I work like this. Obviously, I'm not going to keep wearing it while I'm on this show because I would look silly, but I do wear it all the time. And I actually do have comfort in knowing I'm doing something. I also have one by my bed. I also have this blanket that I just put on my lap while I'm working. And I have another one on the couch I put on my lap while I'm just sitting there watching TV at night when I'm unwinding. We have a blanket, an EMF blanket that's bigger than this on our bed upstairs that we can cover. It's a twin size sheet, but it fits across our other bedding that we are under nicely.
Here's the EMF blanket that I have, and you can get them at worldviewtalk.com. Apparently the boys in control room are not listening to me, because if they were, they would come to me right now, but they're not coming to me right now. There we go. Now I got their attention. What are you guys doing in there? You playing gin? Are you playing a game?
I hope they're wearing this hat. They should be wearing this hat. Especially in that control room.
2 U.S. senators nominated Donald Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize because he invented warp speed to give us the COVID bioweapon. And who, pray tell, are the 2 U.S. senators? Bill Cassidy of Louisiana, who's like a big... Isn't Cassidy the one that was giving so much grief to RFK Jr., the U.S. senator? Yeah. And who was the other one? John Barroso. Where's he from? Wyoming. Well, there you go. That's what they were reading. That's what they were distracted by. They were reading. That's what they're telling me. Okay, so here's the big EMF blanket. You can get it at worldviewtalk.com or by calling that number 1-866-738-3224. By the way, some of these things would make great Christmas gifts. Okay, some of these things would make great Christmas gifts, and you're giving them
Christmas
a blanket.
stocking. Yeah,
you're giving them a blanket, and it has a benefit. Yeah.
We ran out of these last year, and we kept ordering more and more and more. I mean, everywhere we go, we run out of these caps because they are so comfortable. They're so thin, they're so light, they're so little, but they're so effective. And I wash mine all the time, and I've had no problems with this Faraday lining, nice and soft. And I do feel like, I mean, really, I truly wear these. I actually have 3 of them. I also carry one in my purse that I travel with, because when I'm on an airplane, I'll put this on because there's a lot of EMF exposure on a plane. And also, if you're going to a hotel room, there's a ton of EMF exposure there as well. So definitely protect yourself. Most important thing to do, in my opinion, is decrease your EMF exposure by turning off Wi-Fi in your house at nighttime. Do not carry your cell phone on your person. Do not put it on inside of your pockets, inside of your bra. Oh my gosh, there's cases of these weird.
Do not be putting the cell phone in your bra. All right. He said noted. He won't put it in his bra.
You know what's nice? What's nice is when you interrupt me like that, it makes people remember it. So I actually appreciate that about you, because now more people are going to remember not to.
Someone is finally complimenting me for interrupting people, Logan.
Yeah. I'm glad we have a relationship like that. Like you can actually, so do not carry your cell phone on your person. Also, please don't leave it on your bedstand, under your pillow. I mean, this is just, these things are constantly communicating to the towers all day long. And the communication is very erratic. And that is very dangerous for cellular health. This is not a scare tactic. This is not to scare. This is like, it's devastating to me when I have to diagnose people with brain tumors. It is absolutely, and I used to hardly ever have to diagnose it. And now it's like, I just had another one this week. And
do most of these people have the shot? Have they had the shot, or any of them got brain tumors that have not had the shot?
Both.
So you've got patients who've had the shot, okay, and then you have patients who have not had the shot who are also getting brain tumors.
Right.
And do you think there's a correlation between the brain tumors and all this 5G?
I believe that there's a correlation between 5G and EMF exposure to cellular biology, not because just of all the increase in brain tumors I'm seeing, but simply based on data and research. Again, not my opinion, data and research. When we're seeing sperm counts decrease, when we're seeing men increase in terms of going to fertility clinics, when we're seeing more cancers in general, when we're seeing an International Cancer Association classifying EMF as a 2B possible carcinogen. This is not my opinion. These are facts that I'm stating. And coincidentally, I happen to see it in my practice. And also, I'm smart enough to do the research to understand, because to me, it's like how, why, what, how can I protect myself too? And the how is the increase in calcium inside of a cell and the increase in reactive oxygen species, but yet they're hiding behind the idea that EMF is non-ionizing. That is just BS. Do not believe it. In my opinion, based on the research I've done, you are damaging cells. The more EMF exposure you have, the more DNA damage you have, the more headaches you're going to have, the more migraines you're going to have. And yes, military people are the first ones that were being exposed to it. And, you know, I cringe at the cases of attention deficit disorder that we're seeing now, how high that's skyrocketed, the nervous system being affected early on in pregnancy with EMF, and the number of autism cases we're seeing that are increasing. While I've always mentioned autism is not a one thing caused autism, it's multifactorial. EMF is one of the environmental changes that has happened in the past 20 to 25 years that certainly would coincide with when we started seeing more nervous system issues increasing in this country, including autism, attention deficit disorder, all sorts of mood issues with depression and anxiety and adrenal fatigue and all these things. So definitely there's a correlation between the two. Whether or not it's causative, certainly the science would suggest that it would be based on some of the articles that I've read, but also just the FCC not changing their recommendations since 1996. I think that is just a travesty, especially with all the information that we know now. Here's
a study, by the way, from the High Wire. They're talking about a study that was done. In addition to affecting the metabolism, blood clumped together from EMFs has the potential to slow down blood flow, leading to blockages in small blood vessels, leading to strokes and heart problems. Likewise, the EHT research team noted that Rolex formation has been associated with infectious and inflammatory processes, connective tissue disease, and some forms of cancer. Moreover, individuals with diabetes for COVID-related blood vessels damage could indeed be at a higher risk of serious complications from blood clots if their blood enters into that formation. This is a new study. Cell phone radiation can cause blood cells to clump together. That's from April of this year at the High Wire.
And I'll tell you what, the root cause of it all is the increase in reactive oxygen species, increase in inflammation inside of a cell, damage to DNA, and damage to mitochondrial function inside of a cell. Nothing is going to work normal if you have that. And the tissues that are most sensitive are the brain and the heart. And, particularly the heart because of its electrical conductive activity anyway, which is a very unique, the cardiac muscle is very different from all other muscle in your body because it has electrical currents going through it. So, you've got skeletal muscle, you've got smooth muscle, and you've got cardiac muscle. And so that is definitely more sensitive. So then, potentially arrhythmias and all sorts of cardiovascular issues can definitely happen. Now, I will tell you that is one of the reasons why, remember our talk with oxidative stress, and one of the things that causes oxidative stress, we were talking about all the different causes of oxidative stress. One of the most common standard American diet, which then opposite of that is eating an anti-inflammatory diet. But one of the most common causes nowadays is EMF exposure. And so EMF exposure is causing the same type of cellular damage that, say, a standard American diet is causing. Sugar is causing inflammation.
And this brings us back to glutathione, because glutathione is about one of the only things to help detox from this, right?
Glutathione is a great free radical quencher. It's a free radical scavenger. So it goes around looking for free radicals and eating them up. Your number one defense is to decrease exposure. So I always say, you keep your stuff away from your body. So keep your electronics away from your body. Turn your Wi-Fi off when you're not using it. Don't put your cell phone next to your bed. Wear these safety products like we do. Like you're covering yourself at night. I'm covering myself at night. My husband is too. We even have a grounding blanket. That large blanket can actually act like a grounding blanket. So it plugs into the electrical outlet, that little tiny round hole that helps ground, and really so many benefits from that in terms of anti-inflammatory benefits. But if you also want to protect your cellular health, then glutathione is your body's #1 antioxidant. So it is a amazing free radical scavenger. And then, of course, the foundational pack from worldviewvitamins.com, that foundational pack that has the antioxidants in it, that is a major home run also. If you do those things, you eat an anti-inflammatory diet, keep your EMF away from you, cover your head, and cover your, and at least at nighttime, decrease significant exposure by decreasing your Wi-Fi exposure and getting electronics out of your bedroom. We have nothing plugged into our room. Anytime you plug anything in, except for the blanket, the little town hole, the grounding, not the electrical, but the grounding plug. So we have nothing plugged into our bedroom sockets, nothing at all. No lights, no TVs, absolutely nothing in our bedroom. And we've got the proper gear to help cover us and protect us from EMF. So at least in our minds, we're getting about 8-9 hours of EMF decrease significantly time for our cells to heal and take care of themselves.
And you're both medical doctors. You're both MDs, and you're both doing this. So obviously you believe in it. Obviously you've seen the research, the science, and you have seen in your practice what you believe to be the consequences in society since we've got more and more EMF into our daily lives. So it's
Brannon, if you're my age, all you have to do is think back 25 years ago. You probably didn't know anyone with cancer. You probably didn't know that many people with autoimmune disease. You probably didn't have any friends who had children with autism. And that has significantly changed. Almost all of us have friends that we have that with cancer at an earlier and earlier age. We talked about colon cancer screening recently. We're having to screen people earlier and earlier now. And unfortunately, the younger you are when you get something like colon cancer, the more aggressive it will be at time of diagnosis. In other words, it will have already possibly metastasized. And I don't want to be a dark cloud because I'm a very joyful person and I love what I do. Educate, empower. Because if we can empower, then we can avoid these things. And prevention is a lot easier to do than to have to treat later on. So this is why I'm on your show every week, because absolutely. I take my time.
Worldviewvitamins.com real quick, guys. Worldviewvitamins.com. You get the glutathione at swishforlife.com. Swishforlife.com. We have a lower third for that. Swishforlife.com to get the glutathione, which is the most powerful way to get some of these toxins from the EMF out of your system. Okay. Now, I want to ask you real quick before we wrap here. I have tennis elbow in both elbows. And I don't even play tennis. I also have a pinched nerve in my shoulder, in my shoulder blade back here, and it's running down my arm. And for about 3 months, my hand goes to sleep a lot. My hand feels like my hand's going to sleep. It's not. It's the pinched nerve. And so I'm trying to get rid of this pinched nerve in my shoulder blade. And I've got now tennis elbow that I've been told I have from a physical therapist. And I guess they could feel. They felt like, oh, you got tennis elbow in both of those. I'm like, well, I know something's wrong with this elbow because I cannot reach over behind me and get my hot tea at night, my green tea. If I reach behind me to pick up the green tea at night off the nightstand, my elbow hurts like a son of a gun, just picking up a cup of tea, right? And so I knew I had something going on, but the guy said, no, you got it going on this one too. How on earth would I end up with tennis elbow when I don't play tennis or do anything else that's repetitive? They're like, do you type a lot? I'm like, yeah, I type a lot. But come on, I didn't get tennis elbow in both elbows from typing, did I?
So possibly from typing, that's a common thing. But I think for you, mostly it's probably just because I know you a little bit better, maybe more laborious in nature, especially in the garden and things like that.
The moving the rock, the landscaping rock.
The rock.
Okay.
Yeah. move and just doing that repetitive motion over and over and over again. And sometimes what happens is with tennis elbow, it's a little bit over a long period of time. Sometimes it can be a lot over a short period of time. So if you did a lot over a short period of time, that may be the source of the problem. What do you do for it? You know what we do for it in our practice is we love peptides for this. Peptides like BPC 157. You do for the type we use. You do have to have a prescription for them, and so we do injectables and we also do some orals. The oral, I would recommend the oral for you. It's not a steroid. Side effects are pretty much none. And your body naturally makes BPC 157 anyway. If you look up BPC 157, you'll be like, oh my gosh, I need this now. But we combine it with another peptide called KPV. So it has this amazing anti-inflammatory effects. Now, I will tell you, Joe Rogan was actually interviewing a professional athlete, Aaron Rodgers. He was interviewing Aaron Rodgers after Aaron Rodgers tore up his Achilles tendon, and they were talking about how they got better so fast. And Joe Rogan actually had tennis elbow for months and months, and he found a functional medicine doctor that actually prescribed the injectable form of BPC 157, and he got better within 2 weeks.
Wow!
And of course, it was assumed that Aaron Rodgers also used other peptides. Now, peptides are not illegal to use as an athlete. So we have some professional athletes that we actually treat. And so not illegal, not prohibited, not any weird stuff like that. Like I said, peptides are stuff and things that your body actually makes, and they're available in multiple different forms. In your case, I would probably put, and the other beautiful thing about this peptide 157 is that it actually helps heal gut lining. So it actually helps support the healing of gut lining as a byproduct, which is great because you're kind of getting 2 for 1. A lot of anti-inflammatories, like I'm not going to name any name brands, but a whole bunch of anti-inflammatories actually tear up your gut lining. So this is actually a good if you use it properly. So.
Excellent. All right. So anything else you want to mention or plug, particularly when it comes to worldviewvitamins.com?
Yeah. Just one other thing really quick. The other thing too with tennis elbow, if you don't have a tennis elbow band, that's important, a tennis elbow band, because that'll help put pressure on the ligaments that are sort of inflamed. So like when we feel for tennis elbow, we can actually pinpoint exactly where it hurts. And we put a band around there. That'll really help with stretching. And then this is where it's really, really critical to eat an anti-inflammatory diet and do all the anti-inflammatory things, the antioxidants, the glutathione, all of that stuff, because we want to help decrease the cytokine storm. So we want to decrease the inflammatory processes that are happening in your body. For example, I know you've given up gluten, but for example, some patients who have a resistant to healing, like I had a patient many years ago who had a spinal C surgery, and she was not getting better. And 3 months later, she came to see me because she was frustrated with her surgeon. I knew her surgeon. I knew her surgeon always does a great job, because I referred her there. And so I was really perplexed with her. So I decided, and this is early on in my functional medicine career, I decided, let me just do some non-routine labs. And I actually evaluated her for celiac disease, and her numbers were sky high. We got rid of the gluten and she healed up almost immediately.
Wow.
So it's one of those things where you have to remember that your diet and other things that you're doing are also contributing to this inflammation. And lastly, high dose fish oil, that monopure that we sell, the omega-3 that's in my vitamin, that is my go-to. When I have somebody who's super inflamed and I don't use traditional anti-inflammatories because of the significant side effects, I will actually put people on 2 or 3 of those. So you have to buy a bottle of it. You can't just go with the med pack because that only has 1, but you have to buy an additional bottle. And then also, and you take 2 or 3 of those every day for like maybe 2 or 3 weeks, because what people don't realize is fish oil churns down the body's inflammation making capabilities when it's inappropriately being overactivated. And then lastly, the magnesium helps in recovery, helps the muscles relax. That is in every single med pack. So that's what I would do, sort of a holistic approach rather than just There's not one thing that treats something like this. So we have to look at it from a multifactorial perspective.
WorldviewVitamins.com, folks. WorldviewVitamins.com. As always, we love our weekly visits, Dr. Basima.
I love my weekly talks with you, Brannon. So let's keep it up.
Thank you. And Logan, what did we learn?
Educate.
What did we learn tonight, Logan? Yeah, do not put your phone in your bra. All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
Or really, do not put your phone in your pants, Logan, if you want kids.
Logan, I want grandchildren from you, so don't do that.
Oh, and also wear this hat while you're.
I want you to go around wearing that hat 24/7, Logan.
And put this on your lap.
You're gonna
when
get a
you're in
what?
that room.
He said he'll get a purse for his phone.
Well, I actually go to that website that you showed.
Yeah,
actually has purses.
Worldviewtalk.com
and crossbody bags. So he would need to get a crossbody bag that he can throw his cell phone in.
All right,
100%.
That'll be better than a purse. That's for sure. There you go.
Well, for him, we do
Yes.
have purses that have a safe little place that you can put your.
Look at that. There they are, and they're bulletproof.
Some of them are bulletproof. Yeah, some of them. The backpacks are bulletproof.
Yeah.
And some of the bags that have the EMF capabilities are also, they have some bulletproof capabilities so that you can protect yourself, protect your vital organs, your upper chest. Yeah.
There you go. There's a crossbody Faraday bag right there for you, Logan.
Yep. That's what Logan needs for Christmas.
That's right. Christmas right there, guys. At worldviewtalk.com. Look at that. We're solving the world's problems.
Hey, you know what? Seriously, I did over 40 hours of research on EMF. I probably read through about 100 journal reports, and I was actually trying to disprove what I feared, and I only proved it more and more. This is not just out of fear. This is actually for protecting my own family too. So,
Well, even the government knew this long time ago.
Right. But when you're captured, you can't do anything about it. When you're being bought by someone, you cannot do anything about it.
And that's what this guy was warning about. The doctor that we showed, he was warning that a lot of the people that were trying to refute him, they had been captured by the industry.
That's 100%. That's what I found too. So.
All right, guys, worldviewvitamins.com, worldviewvitamins.com. Thank you, Dr. Basima.
Thanks, Brandon. Take care. Have a blessed day.
All right, guys, don't forget about getting our free business cards at worldviewstore.com. They're free. Pass them out to your family and friends and let them know all about Worldview Tube. Worldview Tube, Dolly. Worldview Tube. You love the business cards, don't you? Worldviewtube.com. Pass these out. These are absolutely free of charge. And you can get them at worldviewstore.com, worldviewstore.com. Hey, guess what I have coming out? I have a brand new book coming out on Hamas. You guys know I did 11 hours on Hamas. I taught 11 hours in a series, and I have it coming out in a brand new book. You know what else I have coming out? A brand new book based on my documentary, Siege. And I have a brand new book coming out on my documentary on sabotage. I'm taking a lot of the things I've done, whether documentaries or long format series, and I'm turning them into books. I don't think I'll print a lot of them just due to the cost of storage and shipping and all that, but they will be PDFs. And if you're a Vault member at worldviewtube.com/vault, you will have access to these new books. The first one coming out will be the one on Hamas. And then probably the one on Siege and then Sabotage. And then I'm going to have one coming out on my documentary series on Brainwashed. I'm turning that into a book. And there'll be PDFs and they'll be for you. Oh, then my commentary. Thank you, Logan. Then my commentary and my study on the book of Revelation. That'll be a commentary and a study guide. 2 in 1. A study guide and a commentary. And these books, all these PDFs, they're books, but they'll be in PDF form. And you can print them out if you want to. But you can read them on your iPad or your computer. They'll all be in the membership of the Vault. I'm not going to charge you to have access to them. I'm going to let you have access to them as a member of the Vault. The Vault is only $9.99 a month, right, Logan? $9.99 a month. Can you support us with $9.99 a month? Would you, please? Go now to worldviewtube.com/vault. You can join it the year plan, the 6-month plan, the month-to-month plan. It gets cheaper if you go. I think they can get it down to how cheap, Logan? $7.99 a month if you join it the year at one time. $7.99 a month. Can you budget $7.99 a month to support this network? I think a lot of you can. That's basically one coffee at Starbucks, right? All of these books are going to go in there as PDF automatically. The first one coming out will be on Hamas. It's being edited right now. It's done and being edited. Then the next one will be on Siege, Sabotage, my Revelation series, Brainwashed America. I got a bunch of them. I'm taking a lot of what I've done and worked on and researched, and I'm turning them into books. Okay? And I want you to have them as a member of the vault. And I'm not going to charge you to buy them if you're a member of the vault. Now, I may offer them up for $6, $9, whatever we're going to charge, if people just want to buy it and be done with it. But why not just become a member of the vault and have access to all of my books, all my ebooks, all my documentaries, all my shows from all my content for 36 years. All my 22 years of Worldview weekends, 22 years, including this last one. It was the 1st of October, 2025. Worldviewtube.com/vault. If we had thousands of you join that, I mean, if we could get so many thousands of you to join, we could probably fund the whole network just from this. But I don't know. People, I guess we give away too much. And maybe that's probably our problem, Logan. My guess is we're giving away too much content. If I really wanted to make it about bringing in the revenue, I would probably not make it so that you can watch any of our shows unless you watched it live. I would not put it back up where everybody can watch for free. I would say it goes right into the vault if you didn't catch it for free. Force you to join. But I don't want to do that. I'm trying to keep ministry front and center and make this programming available to the people that cannot afford to pay for the paywall. So we're trying to keep ministry front and center. But those of you that can afford to join the vault, please do. And if you can afford to support our foundation, please do. Roll the music. Let's call it a night. And I want to thank all of you that are members of the vault. I want to thank all of you that are subscribers to the vault, that give to the foundation, that buy the resources, that have a subscription to Bella Grace or Numi or Gatatana. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I was thinking today while I was having my morning coffee, if it wasn't for those of you that are so faithful in your giving, your membership to the vault, or purchasing Bella Grace and Numi and Gatatana, we'd be in big, big trouble. So thank you, thank you, thank you. May God save America. Take care.